Welcome back to my course on life writing and autoethnography. In our last video, I described the characteristics and the special features of an autoethnography. In this video, I'd like to move forward and discuss types of autoethnography because there are different types or different foci for autoethnography. So first, let's just to remind you basically what we said at the beginning of the last video. Autoethnography is a research method. It's a research method that uses writing, and the aim is to investigate one's own personal experience and what they mean. I would say it's a methodology for divorcing interpretation from experience. So you explicate experience, and then you study, look at, investigate what the interpretation of that experience is. So there are four basic types. There are more than this, but let's talk about the four that are best known, I would say. So the first definition, the first differentiation is between analytical and evocative autoethnographies. These are usually what you find in textbooks. I'm going to add two more, which I think are important options. So an analytical autoethnography, it analyzes data being experience and the interpretation of the experience. It connects the experience to the social discourse, and it develops theoretical understandings about how experience is understood, encoded, interpreted within social frameworks, and that's in itself a very interesting and important thing to do. Evocative autoethnography basically focuses on evoking emotional responses. It's based on this belief that significant experiences are very emotional, and if you can evoke that emotion, then that is a very positive thing because it engages readers, directs them to feel and care, have empathy in relation to the other. I should point out that these are not antithetical to one another. You can have a autoethnography which is both analytical and evocative, and I would suggest that you do that. The next two forms of autoethnography are basically differentiated by the way they go about their work. Both analytical and evocative autoethnography tend to use narratives, verbal language, prose in many ways. Poetic autoethnography uses poetry. That's the methodology that we're going to learn in this course. There's a reason to use poetry because poetry breaks, in some ways, the narrative control, the interpretive narrative control that many of us have over our own life experiences. So a poetic autoethnography uses poetry to elicit and analyze experience, breaks narrative control, and then gives you the option of a critical reflection. This includes both the evocative and the analytical aspects of autoethnography. And the visual autoethnography, in a similar way to the poetic, but has its own features, uses art and in some cases performance as a way of representing experience that engages people. It's very evocative. Now let's delve into each of these in slightly more detail. You'll notice at the bottom here that I've given a reference to Anderson, and all the references will appear at the end of this video if you want to do some further reading. So what do we have in an analytical autoethnography? First of all, we have a fully participating insider member in the social experience that's being examined. This is not, you cannot look into other people's experience in this sense. You really need to be an insider in the experience that you're describing. It involves self-conscious and explicit interrogation of your belief, interpretations, and narratives. Once again, all autoethnographies have this divorcing between experience and interpretation. You need to explicitly state and present your positionality. You deal with the interaction and dialogue with other members within that social discourse. That might mean you have a multivocal text. And the aim of the analytic autoethnography is to provide insight into a broad social phenomena. Evocative autoethnography. So this is based on the in-depth internal and external aspects of the writer's personal experience. And most importantly, it provides direct access to the writer's feelings and emotions in relation to a particular experience. Just as a side note, I might point out that we often don't know what we're feeling. And feelings do not come with labels often. They're very confusing and complex in multiple different ways. And evocative autoethnography aims to elicit and evoke this confusion of emotions to a certain extent. The narrative might include dialogues, artistic components, reflection, and the aim of evocative autoethnography is to generate an emotional understanding and empathy with the writer's experience. So you're trying to get other people to empathize with what you went through. Poetic autoethnography is based on, and I will be explaining this in great detail as we move forward, is based on the ability of poetic writing to elicit image-based descriptions of stored memories of personal experience. It counters the tyranny of narratives to control the interpretation. So one of the reasons that I developed poetic autoethnography is to get past or find a methodology which allows us to get past the way we believe our own interpretations. Utilizing poetry, narrative, analysis, and self-reflection, you can also generate empathy, emotional understanding, and insight into your own experience. The aim of a poetic autoethnography is to generate emotional understanding and experience in order to counter prevalent obscuring social discourses. And finally, visual autoethnography utilizes artist research approach in which the artistic process is both an exploration and presentation of personal experience. It's image-based presentation in which the art piece itself provides access to the experience that's being explored. I should point out that there is a value here that you might experience the ambiguity, confusion of emotions through the art piece because it's not as explicit as, say, a piece of written prose. May include contextualization, discussion, and interpretation of presented images, and the aim of the visual autoethnography is to generate discussion around the personal experience, so it elicits this multivocal response. Here are some references for further reading. My own chapter on poetic writing research goes beyond just poetic autoethnography, but it gives a good introduction to that as well. And with that, I'd like to thank you for listening to this video, and I will see you in our next presentation.